we have a really intense deep dive for you today. We're looking at how something completely normal can, hijack your brain.
Welcome to the Psychology of Gambling, the podcast from Mind Over Odds, where we believe if you control your emotions, you control your outcomes.
Exactly. And, to really get why this matters, I want you to picture this. It's a Tuesday night.
Right.
You've had a long day. You're just sitting on the couch and you're watching a game that is, honestly, it's kind of putting you to sleep.
Yeah, a total blowout.
Right. The score is blown out. There's no real stakes.
Yeah.
So you decide to pull out your phone and just, place a tiny $5 bet on the next quarter.
Just to make things a little more interesting.
Exactly. It's harmless, right? I mean, it's $5. But then skip ahead 30 minutes. Before you even realize what's happening, your heart is literally pounding against your ribs.
Yeah.
You've suddenly developed this, intense tunnel vision.
Oh, yeah. The blinders come on.
Right, and you're placing these rapid-fire live bets on every single play. The tension in the room is just suffocating. And by the end of the fourth quarter,
You're completely emotionally hijacked.
you are. You're frantically chasing to win back losses you didn't even plan to make an hour ago.
It's wild. And unfortunately, it's a scenario playing out in millions of living rooms right now. So today, our mission is to basically unpack exactly what happened on that couch.
Yeah, let's decode it.
We want to explore how mobile sports betting silently rewires your brain. And it does it much faster than you think.
Much faster.
And most importantly, we want to share some small, daily habits to help you build better emotional control.
Which is such a crucial conversation because, this isn't just about losing a few bucks on a Tuesday. We're talking about a fundamental shift in how we consume sports and really how our brains process risk in general.
Oh.
So let's dive into the mechanics of this. Why do so many incredibly smart, rational sports fans fall into this trap in the first place? Because, it seems like everyone I talk to at the office water cooler thinks they have some sort of secret edge.
Yeah, that belief right there. That is the foundational trap.
Oh,
Yeah, we call it the illusion of skill.
The illusion of skill. Okay.
Right, because when you sit down to watch a game, you're leaning on your identity as this dedicated fan. You know the players, you've watched the coaches' press conferences.
Right, I know who has a lingering ankle injury from 3 weeks ago.
Exactly. And because of all that deeply researched knowledge, you genuinely feel like you are predicting a sporting event based on your expertise.
Like it's an educated guess.
Right. But the reality is, it's much colder than that. You aren't just playing against other fans, you are playing against supercomputers.
Wow.
And the house always wins because of a mathematical wall known as the VIG.
The VIG. Okay, I hear that term thrown around in gambling movies all the time, but practically speaking, how does that actually stack the deck against just a regular fan?
So think of the VIG, which is short for vigorish, as a hidden tax. It's built into every single wager on the app.
A hidden tax.
Right. If we lived in a perfectly fair universe and say you and I decided to bet $10 on a coin flip,
Sure.
the winner walks away with the loser's $10. It's a simple, even exchange. But a betting app doesn't operate in a fair universe.
Because they have to make money.
Exactly. To win $10 on an app, you typically have to risk $11. The algorithm just skims that extra dollar right off the top, regardless of who wins or loses the actual football game.
Oh, man, so it's baked into the math itself.
Exactly. Because of that baked-in math, you can't just win half your bets to break even. You have to win closer to 53% of the time just to keep your head above water.
Which sounds totally doable until you realize that professional full-time sports bettors consider winning 55% of the time to be like an elite world-class year.
It is incredibly difficult. Most casual bettors sit somewhere around 45%.
Wow.
So over a long enough timeline, it is a mathematical certainty that you will lose money. The app doesn't care who wins the game. It just cares about volume because it collects that tax on every single transaction.
Okay, I have to push back a little here, just on behalf of the hardcore fans listening.
Sure.
If I spend, let's say, 4 hours every single morning analyzing player stats, weather conditions, historical matchups, doesn't that hard work give me an actual edge over someone who just, bets based on their favorite team colors?
To a very small degree, perhaps.
Yeah?
But nowhere near enough to beat the system.
Really? All that research?
The sports books employ literal armies of data scientists. They use predictive analytics that swallow historical data by the terabyte. So by the time you actually see the odds on your screen, the supercomputer has already priced your deep knowledge of that ankle injury into the betting line.
It already knows.
It already knows. Now, knowing that the math is unbeatable, the logical question is, why do we keep doing it?
Right. If we are mathematically destined to lose, why does the frustration of losing not just immediately outweigh the fun?
Because the apps don't target your logic. They target your biology.
Okay, now that is interesting.
Specifically, they hijack the brain's reward system. A lot of people have this misconception about dopamine, the chemical that makes us feel pleasure and motivation.
Yeah, everyone talks about dopamine hits.
Right. People think it spikes when you finally win the bet and see the money hit your account.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what I would assume. You win the bet, you get the reward, you feel good.
Surprisingly, the neuroscience shows a completely different story.
Wait, really?
Yeah, dopamine is actually a seeking chemical.
A seeking chemical.
Yes. The most massive chemical rush in your brain doesn't happen when the game ends. It happens during the anticipation.
Oh, wow.
It's that suspended, breathless window of time right after your thumb leaves the screen to place the bet and right before the outcome is actually revealed on the field.
Oh, man. Okay, think about it like waiting to see if someone you really like texted you back.
Oh, that's a great comparison.
Right. Seeing the actual message is fine, but that agonizing, thrilling 3 seconds when you see the little typing bubbles pop up on your screen,
Yes.
the thrill is entirely in the suspense of the unknown.
That is a phenomenal way to visualize it. The brain just craves that suspense.
Yeah.
Evolutionarily, dopamine evolved to keep us motivated to hunt and forage.
Like, keep looking for the berries.
Exactly. It's the drive that says, keep looking, the reward is right around the corner. And betting apps weaponize this by offering unpredictable, variable rewards.
Because you never know when the win is coming.
Or how big it will be. So your brain just becomes obsessed with the suspense itself. It's the exact same psychological hook engineered into a slot machine.
So we are essentially walking around with a fully optimized casino right in our pockets, completely convinced that we're just, analyzing sports.
Yes.
But even with that anticipation high, losing still hurts. If I place a massive bet and get completely crushed, my dopamine crashes, right? How do the apps keep people from just deleting the software in pure frustration?
They mitigate that frustration through user interface design. Specifically, they use a dark pattern known as the near-miss effect.
The near-miss effect.
Let's say you put together a massive 4-leg parlay. So you need 4 separate outcomes to happen across 4 different games.
Okay, sure.
3 of them hit perfectly. But the very last one fails by a single point in the final seconds. Consciously, how does that make you feel?
Devastated. It is the most infuriating feeling. You feel like the universe just totally robbed you.
Right. Consciously, you feel angry. But subconsciously, your brain's reward circuitry processes that almost win almost identically to how it processes a massive jackpot.
You're kidding.
No. When they put people in fMRI scanners, the brain lights up with a huge surge of dopamine during a near miss.
Wait. I need to make sure I'm getting this. My brain is literally celebrating a failure.
Yes. And it's because of how we evolved to learn skills. Think about our ancestors. If they threw a spear at a deer and missed by 10 feet, the brain didn't reward them.
Great, terrible throw.
But if they missed by an inch, the brain released dopamine to say, hey, you are getting closer. Adjust your grip and try again.
Oh, that makes so much sense in nature.
Right. In the real world, a near miss means you are mastering a physical skill. But in a game of pure mathematical chance on a phone app, it's a biological trap. It forces you to bet again immediately instead of just cutting your losses.
It's a complete misinterpretation by the brain. It's not like, playing horseshoes where being close actually earns you points. It's more like trying to pick a digital lock. You hear a click, you get a rush of dopamine because you think, oh, I'm figuring out the mechanism, so you keep trying. But you don't realize the lock is completely randomized and resetting every single time.
That lock analogy perfectly captures the deception. The app gives you this illusion of progress. And, they accelerate this deception through something called micro-betting.
What's micro-betting?
Instead of waiting 3 hours for a baseball game to end, you can bet on whether the very next pitch will be a ball or a strike.
Oh.
Or in football, you can bet on whether the next play will be a run or a pass.
So they're turning every single second of dead time into a high-stakes event.
Exactly. And the speed of micro-betting is honestly the most dangerous part.
Why is the speed dangerous?
Because when you are forced to make a financial decision in 10 seconds, right before the pitcher throws the ball, you completely bypass your prefrontal cortex.
Which is the logical part of the brain.
Yes. It's the area right behind your forehead, responsible for logic, long-term planning, and really understanding consequences.
Hmm.
It's basically your brain's brake pedal.
And the app just cuts the brake lines.
Yes, by shrinking that decision window to just seconds, the app guarantees you are driving without brakes. You are acting purely from the amygdala.
The emotional center.
Right, the emotional, impulsive center of the brain.
Which explains why that guy on the couch suddenly finds himself down hundreds of dollars before the quarter even ends. He literally didn't give his brain enough time to engage its own defenses.
It couldn't.
And, I want to pause for a second because just understanding how aggressively this technology hacks our biology is really sobering. So if you or someone you know struggles with compulsive or problem gambling, free help is available 24 hours a day by calling 1-800-GAMBLER.
It is so important to know that resources there.
It's confidential, and it exists because fighting this kind of neurohacking alone is incredibly difficult.
It really is.
Yeah.
And we really can't overstate the real-world impact here. When we move past the algorithms and the brain chemistry, we find a profound and often totally invisible human cost.
Yeah, I definitely want to spend some time on that human element because we see the commercials with celebrities laughing and placing bets, making it look like the ultimate fun social activity.
Right, the glamour side.
But the story of Mia and Jack paints a very different picture of how this actually plays out in real life.
A heartbreaking picture.
What struck me most about their situation was the sheer normalcy of it all. I mean, Jack wasn't flying to Vegas every weekend. His gambling just started with $5 March Madness brackets and casual fantasy football leagues with guys from college.
Which, is the entry point for millions of people. It's entirely normalized and heavily socially encouraged.
Right. But when sports betting became legal on his phone, it quietly morphed. Jack didn't have to actually go anywhere to bet anymore.
No friction at all.
Over a period of 3 years, the dopamine tolerance built up. $5 wasn't giving him that anticipation high anymore.
It never does for long.
So it became 50, then 500. He started secretly emptying out their joint savings to chase his losses. When that ran out, he started taking out high-interest personal loans.
It just escalates so fast.
It really does. Eventually, he lost his job for falsifying expense reports, and the absolute rock bottom was committing identity theft using client information from his own company.
Just to secure more lines of credit.
Exactly. It ended with staggering six-figure debt and multiple felony charges. But the part that absolutely haunted me was his wife, Mia.
Yeah.
She had absolutely no idea any of this was happening until a police detective literally left a voicemail on her phone while she was grocery shopping.
The emotional devastation for the family in these cases is just incomprehensible. I mean, the betrayal, the sudden collapse of their entire reality.
I just keep returning to the logistics of it, though. How could someone bankrupt their family, risk their marriage, and commit felonies over 3 years without their spouse noticing a single red flag?
Hard to believe, isn't it?
It is, because if someone is struggling with, say, substance abuse, there are usually physical tells. They come home intoxicated, they smell like alcohol, their physical health visibly deteriorates. But with this, there was zero friction in their daily routine.
You've hit on what makes mobile gambling uniquely insidious among addictions. It is entirely invisible.
Invisible.
The apps are engineered to pull the user into a deeply dissociative state that clinical psychologists actually refer to as the zone.
The zone,
Yes.
yeah.
When Jack was sitting on the couch micro-betting, his brain was just flooded with a cocktail of adrenaline and cortisol. And in that state, you enter this hyper-focused hypnotic bubble.
Like tuning everything else out.
Right. You lose track of time, you stop hearing the television or your kids playing in the next room, and crucially, you undergo financial dissociation.
Financial dissociation, meaning like the money loses its real-world value.
Completely. $10, $1,000, it all just becomes abstract pixels on a screen.
Like Monopoly money.
Exactly like Monopoly money. And to your earlier point about the physical tell-ins, there are no physical hangovers. There are no slurred words or stumbling in the hallway.
Right.
A person can be sitting right next to their partner at the kitchen table, completely destroying the family's financial future, and to the partner. It just looks like they're quietly scrolling through emails or reading the news.
That is genuinely terrifying. It completely removes the social guardrails that usually intervene when someone is spiraling out of control.
It really does.
So, given how powerful this zone is, who is biologically most at risk? Because it sounds like this machinery could dismantle anyone's willpower.
Well, it can absolutely happen to anyone, regardless of background or intelligence. However, certain demographics definitely face a much higher vulnerability.
Like,
Young men, specifically those under the age of 25, are at extreme risk. We mentioned the prefrontal cortex earlier.
The brain's brake pedal.
Right. Well, the human brain matures from back to front. The very last part to get fully wired is that prefrontal cortex. The physical insulation on the neural pathways, called myelin, literally hasn't finished forming yet in young men.
Oh, wow. So they are biologically driving a sports car with half-built brakes.
Yes.
They physically cannot process the long-term consequences of a rapid-fire bet the way a fully developed brain can.
Precisely. They are heavily reliant on the emotional amygdala, making them incredibly prone to impulsivity.
That makes total sense. Who else is at risk?
The other group we see frequently falling into this trap are high-stress professionals. We're talking about doctors, corporate lawyers, finance executives.
Really? High achievers?
Yeah. People working 90-hour weeks with massive responsibilities often turn to these apps seeking a micro-escape. The intensity of the bet provides a shock to the system that temporarily drowns out their crushing daily stress.
Like a pressure release valve.
Right. But that escape can spiral into a crisis very quickly. And, for anyone listening who might be recognizing these patterns, whether it's the impulsivity or the need for an escape, I really want to direct you to www.mindoverodds.com.
Definitely.
We've built out a lot of resources there focused on developing emotional control, which applies not just to gambling, but to managing stress and risk in all areas of life.
I highly encourage checking out www.mindoverodds.com. It's always better to have those tools before you need them.
Absolutely.
So we've broken down the mechanics. We know the math is an unbreakable wall. We know the apps are optimizing our dopamine to keep us in that suspense loop. And we see how easily the zone can create an invisible crisis.
Right.
The big question now is, how do we fight back? If the supercomputer is constantly in our pocket, what daily habits actually work to regain control?
Well, it requires real intentionality.
Yeah.
You cannot rely on sheer willpower in the heat of the moment. One of the most effective clinical practices we teach is a mindfulness habit called urge surfing.
Urge surfing. Okay, break that down for me. What does that actually look like in practice?
When you feel a sudden, overwhelming craving to place a bet, maybe you just saw a commercial, or you received a push notification offering a quote-unquote free bet.
Right. They love sending those push notifications.
They do. Your instinct is usually to either desperately fight the thought or just give in to it. Urge surfing asks you to do neither.
Okay.
Instead, you treat that craving like a literal wave in the ocean. You acknowledge that the craving is there, you feel it building in intensity, and you simply sit with the physical discomfort of it, letting it wash over you without taking any action.
I'm going to be honest, just sitting there in the discomfort sounds like absolute torture.
It's not easy.
If my brain is screaming for a dopamine hit, just ignoring it seems nearly impossible for someone deeply entrenched in the habit.
It sounds daunting until you understand the biology of a craving. A dopamine spike has a very short biological half-life. Yeah, it doesn't last forever. The chemical literally metabolizes and begins to drop off. Research shows that if you can ride out the wave for about 15 to 20 minutes, the physiological intensity of that urge will naturally collapse on its own.
Oh, wow.
You are retraining your brain to realize that experiencing a craving does not require an action.
You're basically starving the craving of oxygen by just letting the clock run out on the chemical spike.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense. But beyond just waiting it out, what active steps can we take? Because leaving the app right there on the home screen feels like leaving a loaded weapon on the kitchen table.
To combat a system designed for speed, you have to introduce severe friction.
Friction, okay.
The apps want a frictionless environment. Face ID verification in one tap, and your money is gone in 2 seconds.
Right.
You need to forcefully insert speed bumps. The first step is a self-audit to uncover your true triggers. Ask yourself, am I placing this bet because I actually care about the game, or am I betting because I had a massive argument with my boss and I'm desperately seeking a distraction?
Identifying the root cause rather than just treating the symptom.
Once you know the why, you build the physical barriers.
Yeah.
You delete your saved payment methods so you have to manually type in a credit card number every single time.
That's so annoying. Which is the point, I guess.
Exactly. You set unchangeable deposit limits within the app settings.
Oh.
Or, for many, the best friction is using blocking software like Gamban, which completely prevents your device from even loading gambling servers.
It reminds me of diet habits. It's like putting the junk food in the highest cabinet right behind a lock.
Yes, perfect analogy.
If it takes genuine effort to get to it, you're much less likely to mindlessly consume it. It's like the mechanics of a seatbelt. If you lean forward slowly, the seatbelt lets you move. But if you jerk forward violently in a crash, the friction mechanism immediately locks up and stops your momentum.
Right.
By deleting the saved credit cards or using blocking software, you are essentially installing a seatbelt for your bank account.
That is exactly what you're doing.
The sheer annoyance of having to manually enter a 16-digit card number gives your prefrontal cortex the necessary 30 seconds to wake up, evaluate the situation, and slam on the brakes.
That seatbelt analogy is brilliant because it highlights that friction is a protective mechanism, not a punishment.
Right.
And, it's crucial to acknowledge the broader systemic reality here. If you are struggling to control your gambling, it is not a moral failing or a lack of character.
It's really not.
You are engaged in an asymmetrical war. You are going up against a multi-billion-dollar industry that employs thousands of behavioral psychologists, data scientists, and UX designers, all of whom are working round the clock to defeat human willpower.
It's a completely unfair fight. It's you on a Tuesday night, tired on your couch, versus the most sophisticated behavioral manipulation engines ever built.
Exactly.
Which is why understanding the playbook they're using against you is the first step to getting your agency back. And as we wrap up today, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final paradigm shift to just mull over. What if we collectively stopped viewing sports betting apps as harmless entertainment? What if we stopped seeing them as fun little companions that just enhance the game and started recognizing them for what they actually are?
Right.
Highly calibrated neurohacking tools designed from the ground up to harvest our attention and quietly drain our resources. Because once you finally see the machinery behind the screen, it fundamentally changes the game you're actually playing.
If you found this conversation helpful today, please follow and like the show or leave us a 5-star review. It helps more people in our community find these resources. You could also visit the Mind Over Odds YouTube channel for more psychology-based insights on gambling behavior. We'll talk to you next time. Control your emotions. Control your outcomes.